On August 6th and 9th of 1945, the United States bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing an estimated 180,000 people, with the ultimate goal of ending the war. The United States and Japan had both been opposing the idea of surrendering for the entire war, so the United States decided to use its more powerful weapon, and in doing so, they were able to end the war. The effects on Japan and its people have changed the way people view the United States and their decision. The United States and Japan had been fighting for 6 years in World War II due to competing interests in resources with severe shortages of oil and other natural resources. Japan decided to attack the United States and British forces in Asia to take hold of the resources in Southeast Asia. The United States had been planning to use the atomic bombs throughout the war, and their work might have paid off then, but the after effects on humans and how people view the United States may say otherwise. The United States started research on the atomic bombs in July of 1941. The first stages of the project were based at different universities' labs, including SAM Laboratory at Columbia University in Manhattan, the University of California at Berkeley, the Chicago Met Lab, and New York. 2 years later, in 1943, the United States, the Soviet Union, and Great Britain created a policy committee, and later that year, scientists from both countries moved to the United States to help with the atomic bomb. At this project's peak, it took roughly 70 square miles and around 5,000 technicians and engineers. The first experiment of these atomic bombs was back in July of 1941 at Columbia University. In the summer of 1945, the production plants delivered enough fissionable material to produce a nuclear explosion. The final stages of the Manhattan Project were completed in New Mexico, around 34 miles north of Santa Fe. The final budget of this entire project exceeded $2 billion. The United States didn't have much time to decide on what to do to end the war. Some possibilities were considered but quickly discarded. One possibility that the United States could have chosen was a demonstration of the atomic bombs, but this plan was vastly avoided, along with the invasion of the Japanese mainland. They chose to discard the idea of invading due to an outcome of a casualty rate of over 1 million. In the United States' eyes, they only had one choice, and that was to bomb them. Japan was offered an ultimatum from the Big Three, the Soviet Union, the United States, and Great Britain. This ultimatum was for Japan to surrender or face utter destruction. Once they didn't hear back from Japan, the plans to use atomic bombs went into effect. The U.S. narrowed down the targets for the bombs to Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, Nagasaki, and Kyoto. The United States originally chose to bomb Hiroshima and Kokura, Hiroshima for its military value, and the city being its headquarters of Japan's Second Army, and they thought it would most vividly demonstrate the power of the bomb, and Kokura because it hasn't been firebombed. And behind it was Nagasaki, a port city with 2 military factories that hadn't been firebombed either. About 3 days after bombing Hiroshima, and after no word of Japan surrendering, they made an attempt to bomb Kokura, but due to foggy and cloudy skies, they had to bomb Nagasaki instead. James Bryan, the Secretary of State at the time, believed that the bomb would not only end the war, but put the United States in a dominant position for the course of the post-war. The United States may have had a good reason to use the atomic bomb in 1945, but as time goes on, more and more people are starting to disagree and believe that there were better paths that could have been chosen to end the war, and could have done less damage in the long run. The exact death is unknown, but an estimated 70,000 to 135,000 died in the bombing of Hiroshima, and around 60,000 to 80,000 died in Nagasaki. The nuclear shadows were all that remained from people who were hit with intense thermal radiation, and the surviving victims were promised free health care for life. Out of 343,000 people, an estimated 80,000 died instantly, and by the end of the year, the death toll was well past 100,000. Around 2/3 of the city area was destroyed or greatly damaged. Many areas in Japan have now been dedicated to these bombings and honoring anyone who was affected. Hiroshima and Nagasaki have now become centers of the movement to ban nuclear war. The ruined shell of the Hiroshima Prefectural Industrial Promotion Hall is known as the Atomic Bomb Dome and was designated to UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1996. People have experienced flash burns, mechanical injuries from flying debris, and radiation injuries from being hit by the bomb. Burns from the bombs have caused 60% of deaths. Radiation has caused 10% of the deaths in Hiroshima and 6% in Nagasaki. The falling debris/glass has caused 30% of deaths in Hiroshima and 14% of deaths in Nagasaki. More than an estimated 60,000 out of 90,000 buildings in Hiroshima were destroyed/severely damaged. In 1947, the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission started conducting medical and biology research on the effects of radiation. More than 120,000 Japanese people have enrolled in the RERFS lifespan study, a massive project investigating the health effects of exposure to atomic bombs. As time goes on, fewer and fewer Americans and Japanese have agreed with the usage of the bombs. 85% of Americans approved the usage of atomic bombs in 1945. In 1991, 63% of Americans said the atomic bomb was justified, while 23% didn't. And 29% of Japan said it was justified, and 64% said it wasn't. In 2015, 56% of Americans say the bomb was justified, and 34% say it wasn't. And in Japan, 14% said it was, versus 79% saying it wasn't. As James Bryan said, these bombs could have helped the U.S. then, but they didn't completely think about what it would do in the future. United States President Harry Truman could have chosen to avoid the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August of 1945. Today, there are plenty of people debating if bombing Japan should have ever been an option to begin with.